don't like this morning's presentation, you can blame the fine folks at the distillery for last night and over-serving me. We're sorry. This morning, you guys are here for going to mobile, repurposing your existing design. My name's Kevin Stohlmeyer. I am from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Please excuse the accent or lack thereof. A little bit about me. I'm an Adobe certified instructor with a training organization in Milwaukee, Wisconsin called C2 Graphics Productivity Solutions. I'm also an Adobe community professional and an Adobe freelance professional, so I go around to events like this nationwide and talk about different Adobe products. I'm also a National Association of Photoshop Professionals evangelist. I'm a contributor to Photoshop User Magazine, featured this month. If you go out and buy it, it makes me happy. I get no money from it whatsoever. And I'm also a contributor for different online organizations. So you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and email. And if I like you, you can have my cell phone number. A couple of my clients that I do on a fairly regular basis, Kohl's Corporation, Harley-Davidson, Milwaukee Tool, American Girl. If you have a little daughter, you know who American Girl is. Kramer Krasselt, the #2 marketing advertising agency in the US, and Photoshop User Magazine, and NAP. So, let's get started. In the beginning, there was print. Print was the end result of design. That was it. When you did design, your end result was to have a printed, beautiful publication. Ooh, you have it in your hand, look at it, nice and shiny cover. If you had a portfolio, your portfolio was designed by you and it was basically run by you. You made the portfolio what it is. Your work, yes, it spoke for itself, but you were the narrative for your work. And user experiences were presenter driven. So if you were a presenter, I gave you the best user experience I could. My material was only as good as I was. That's changing. Today, we have mobile and tablet devices. So we have the Android, we have the BlackBerry, we've got Sony, Samsung, iPod, iPad. It's an ever-changing marketplace. I mean, week to week, especially this week, it's been a little crazy. So what we're looking at is keeping up with that as designers, namely print designers. We're switching over to a new transition to something else. There's a virtual interaction now that's required. People like that. They like the shiny things. They like the buttons. They like to touch things and interact with them. We have digital portfolios. I have a digital portfolio. When I go to a client, I take my tablet with me. I usually have my print one with me if they want it, but a lot of times they get the ooh-ah off of looking at something on a tablet. And the user experience is actually user-driven or customer-driven. So you may not be there to explain or to talk about or to share your experiences. You may be sending them something digitally, and you need to give them the best experience possible when you're sending something to them. So let's get rid of the elephant in the room. How many people have heard this? Print is dead. Dead tree publications. Da-da-da-da-da-da. It's a myth. That myth is busted. Print is not dead by any means. If you look at publication rates, Sports Illustrated, big national publication, their advertising and their publication rates and their subscription rates have actually gone up since they've gone to an online publication. They have not cannibalized each other. They're completely separate markets, which is a great thing to hear. Now, I'm not saying that eventually print is not going to die and everything's going to be digital, but in today's market, print is not dead. Print is the beginning. There we go. Transitioning to mobile is the next step. As a designer, you may still be designing for print, but you need to be able to transition over to the next step, which is mobile devices. Designers, you need to know tablets. You need to know every tablet. And I'm not saying like every single one, Tom, Dick, and Harry that comes out in Walmart. You need to know the big ones. You need to know about the Samsung Galaxy Tab. You need to know about the BlackBerry Playbook. You need to know about the iPad. You need to know what you can do on them, what you can't do on them. It's just like going to print. If I'm going to a certain printer in town, I know what that printer can do. I know that he can do aqueous coating. I know he can do spot color. I know he can do this, that, and the other. But he can't do die cutting. Okay, so I'm going to go over to this printer. This printer can do this, that, and the other, but it can't do something else. So it's just like tablets. You need to know the limitations and the exceptional ones. Okay, so first thing you need to do is come up with a game plan. So when you're designing for a digital medium, These are the questions you need to ask yourself. Is this going to be a repurposed design? In other words, do I already have an existing design? Is it done for print? Am I going to repurpose that for the tablet? Is this going to be designed for the tablet directly? Am I starting out with 3 items? I've got a tablet device, I've got a print piece, and I've got maybe a website. I need to think about those things before I even get started. Is this going to be sold? Big thing. Hey, am I going to get paid for this? Are we going to make money off this? And then what devices will I design this for? In the most case, most tablets are pretty similar. 1024, 768, 10.5 inches about in size. There are some that are smaller, there are some that are larger, but the aspect ratio hopefully is the same. So starting out, it starts out very similarly. After you start moving on, you'll see that it kind of takes a turn on some of these devices on what you can do and what you can't do. Common options. These are the options that are available to you as of today. You have PDFs, EPUBs, which is Kindle, Nook, things like that, and digital publications, which is one that most people refer to as digital magazines. So we're going to take a look at each of these. We're going to talk about pros and cons for each of them. So PDFs. Simple PDFs can be used. You can just do a PDF up. You can use a PDF. There's no redesign required. I can just take my InDesign document, my Quark document, export it out as a PDF, and I can throw it on my tablet, I can throw it on my iPhone, I can throw it on my mobile device as long as it has a PDF reader. Apple applications already have the book application, so you've got iBooks in there. It works out great. The cons about this, distribution. Apple Marketplace, the Android Marketplace, they don't sell PDFs. So that's kind of a big problem. You can't distribute through those. So monetization is also a problem. Now, I've seen people get around this by putting a link on their website where, hey, you can buy our PDF off our website, and you can download a digital publication of our website. So it's fine. You can get around it if you have a good user base and people are navigating to your website and you've got good site traffic. You can get around that for the most part. But you're still offering them a limited user experience. When we're talking about PDFs, we'll get back to that in a second. We're going to talk about what you can and can't do on PDFs. EPUBs. EPUBs are open and free. They do allow for CSS and HTML styling. They can be monetized. You buy books off the marketplaces all the time. And they're available on more platforms than anything else. So the Kindle, the Nook, the Kindle Fire, I haven't had a chance to play with yet. I'm pretty excited about it because it's basically like an iPad for half the price. So I'm really curious to see what they come out with for digital publications. The cons, you're still offering a limited user experience. It's a book, that's it. It reflows your text and gives you kind of a, depending on what device you're on, it usually standardizes some of your things depending on your CSS. You can have only images right now. They're working on actually, and that's why I'm kind of excited about the Fire, one of the new OS options is you're supposed to be able to have embedded video. So that will kind of open it up a little bit more, but it's still not as savvy as what you see with a digital magazine. You're not going to have the really cool glossy cover, things like that. What you can do is you can do what they call a fixed layout, and that's using HTML5 code. The problem with that is you then have to design this for every single publication out there, every single tablet. So you have to do a Nook, you have to do a Fire, you have to do a Kindle. So when you do a fixed layout, you're basically designing for the size of the screen. So every single screen. If you've gone to Barnes & Noble or if you've gone to Walmart and looked at all the e-readers, they're all sorts of different sizes. There's no standardization. Okay, digital publishing. Pros. You can use your existing CS5 Adobe software. You can also use Quark Express. There's an option for Quark. It's familiar software. It's a lot of stuff we use on a day-to-day basis. You have total design control. Just like if you're designing for print, you can do whatever you want in here for design for digital. Does allow for interactive features. I'm going to show you some things a little bit later. And of course, it's monetized. If you've gone on to the iPad or the Apple Store, things like that, you can download and buy Wired. You can buy all sorts of magazines. They're making money off that. The cons about this are setup costs. If you don't have the software right now, you have to buy it. We'll talk a little bit about that a little later. There's been some major changes in the last 2 days with Adobe software, if you haven't heard. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. The other thing is you have to go through developer agreements and review process. There's a very popular publication for photographers from Kelby Media called Light It. Came out a couple months ago. Huge reviews, great, oh, this is awesome and everything. They went to put out their second publication. They put it through the Apple process. It's come back 3 times. They've rejected it 3 times, and the only thing that they'll say to them is rejected for quality. What does that mean? What's wrong with this? I need an explanation. That's it, quality. 3 times they've gone through, they reviewed it, they've checked to make sure there's nothing buggy. Basically the same core that they sent through the first time, sent it through the second time. Apple's, nope, sorry. Customer support. This is, for the most part, a one-way feature. You're putting something up on a marketplace, your customers are buying it. You can offer simple support on the site, but any kind of customer support, if you have a customer that comes back and says, hey, I'm having a problem with this, you know, unless you have a tech support department, you're not going to be able to handle every single person that comes at you and says, oh, this sucks, this is bad, why isn't this working, why isn't this working on my, you know, you're slighting me, why isn't it helping me? So there is kind of a limited customer support when it comes to some of these things. Okay, so let's talk about PDFs. PDFs can be designed in InDesign using familiar elements from Photoshop, Illustrator, and Acrobat just like normal. There's no setup costs. Some interactive features will not work on certain tablets. Now, these are things that you can create on a regular PDF if you're going to a desktop. You could have hyperlinks, you could have movies, you could have buttons, you could have forms. Not necessarily on a tablet device. It's great for portfolios because it's free. And the fact that you can actually put this on any device. So I've got it on my iPad over there, but thanks to the lovely iBooks, I can also put my portfolio on my iPhone. So I can sit here and I can swipe and go back and forth and take a look at things. The really cool thing about this is I can zoom in and I can take a look at things. But it's just a swipe navigation. There's nothing really tricky about it. Again, kind of a limited user experience. It doesn't have movies and things like that or animations. It's just kind of there. When we're talking about the biggest challenge, again, distribution. I can email it to you. You can put it on your device. I can put it on my website. You can download it and put it on your device. But it's not going to go through any kind of mass marketplace. So, another option available to people are commercial PDF readers. Now, these are the top 4 PDF readers on the iPad right now. Adobe Reader, which is from Adobe, it supports Acrobat Forms. Woohoo! Yeah, that makes a world of difference for me. Acrobat Forms, all my clients need that. Goodreader supports buttons, hyperlinks, and bookmarks. Hey, that's a little bit better. I can have buttons, I can have rollovers, I can have click navigation inside my PDF. It's a little bit better. PDF Expert supports buttons, hyperlinks, bookmarks, and Acrobat Forms. Cool, I can get rid of these first 2 and just go to PDF Expert and use that. But I'm still missing something. I'm missing movies. You can embed movies in InDesign and have them exported out to a PDF. Only Easy PDF Reader, as of today, supports H.264 movies. And we'll talk about the movie section in a little bit. Here's the problem. This is what they don't support. So Adobe Reader, Adobe, they're kind of supposed to be on the forefront of this. Does not support buttons, hyperlinks, bookmarks, and H.264 movies. It's kind of the weakest one. Goodreader doesn't support movies. PDF Expert doesn't support movies. Easy PDF Reader does, but it doesn't support buttons, hyperlinks, and bookmarks. If anybody out there has a developer friend or knows how to develop an application, if you come out with an application that does all of this, $1 million idea. Nobody's doing this right now. You're always missing something, which just drives me nuts. So, those are PDFs. So let's talk about digital publishing. That's what you're all here for. Digital publishing, again, design in InDesign using familiar applications. Again, design in Quark as well. You can do Quark if you're using Quark still. Uses a new Folio Builder plugin and the Overlay Creator to add interactivity. We're going to go over that in the actual live demo in a little bit. It's free to set up. It's free to test. It's free to put on your iPad and locally distribute. So if you know people's app or Adobe IDs, you can distribute it to them through the cloud, but you can't mass market it. Costs incur at the end when you publish it. Big announcement yesterday. Adobe has officially launched their single-use publication solution. $395. That's it. So if you come up with a magazine, you come up with a book, you want to sell it on the Android marketplace, you want to sell it on the Apple marketplace in the Apple store, it's only $395. That's it. It used to be $2,000. So, setup costs. It's fully interactive. You can have movies, you can have dual orientation, landscape and portrait. You can have hyperlinks, buttons, rollovers, things like that. You can even distribute this to 3 major marketplaces in 2 different ways. You can either have a single-use publication, which is you just put out a book and that's it. You can also have a subscription service. Now, the subscription service is a little more expensive because that requires ongoing support. Subscription service is like Wired, where you download the Wired shell, basically. It's free. But if you go into that app, it has the monthly publications, and you can subscribe monthly, or you can buy individual publications through their shell. So that's the 2 options that you have when you're publishing. So,
you still have to buy the whole issue, not individual article.
No, you still have to buy the whole issue. There's no way to buy an individual article. I don't think anybody's ever going to do that. It's not in their best interest. So here's an overview of the different solutions you have right now for digital publishing. There are 5 main ones. There used to be 6, and what happened was the reason that Adobe has this brand new $395 solution, they partnered with their biggest competitor, which was Woodwing. And Woodwing was on this list, and it was $395, and it was completely killing Adobe, so they partnered with them, and that's now Adobe's single DPS solution. So you can see here Adobe's plugins for testing free. Mag Plus is another one. You can see that the cost per app is $2,000, but you get 5 months free, and then it's an ongoing $500. Now, a lot of these, you're going to see that the pricing structure is a little bit different because like Mag Plus is built up for subscriptions. It's not built for single use. That's why there's a huge cost difference between DPS and Mag Plus. When you're talking about Twixel, the initial cost you have to buy the software, so it's $1,400. Cost per app is $350. But here's where it gets really interesting. When you come down here, you start to look at what it's supporting right now. Adobe's DPS right now only supports the iPad. Coming next year, it's going to support the Android and the BlackBerry. In fact, that's going to be coming up fairly shortly, thanks to some partnerships. When you're talking about Mag Plus, it's already on the Android. So is Twixel. So is Aquafatus, which is Quark's solution, which is also available on InDesign. You can download the plugin for InDesign if you like Aquafatus. Aquafatus is probably the 2nd biggest competitor. It's $500 for the plugin, but it doesn't cost you anything to upload. What you do is you pay for it on the download side. So it says 0 there, but what you end up doing is when you load that up, there's the Apple fee, and then usually it's 17 to 22 cents per download that they take off the top. So if you're selling this for 99 cents, 33 cents is going to Apple, 22 cents is going to your publisher, so you're getting 44 cents. So that's why you see magazines are costing a little bit more. Each one of these has their own testing application that you can test on the tablet. So Adobe Content Viewer is what we're going to look at today. Mag Plus has Reviewer, things like that. Down below, here's the big thing. Analytics. You want to know where your book is going, who's buying your book, who's buying your magazine, where's the distribution methods. So if you're doing the subscription service on DPS, you're using Omniture, which is Adobe's analytic feature. Most of the rest of these use Google, which is kind of nice. Everybody's familiar with Google Analytics. It's pretty easy to use. There was a nice talk yesterday about using Google Analytics. Aquafatus uses their own, which is AVE, so that's a little bit different. And then each one has some different built-in special features, like DPS has Panorama and some other things. Mag Plus, very interesting with Mag Plus. One of the great features about it is you only have to design one publication. It automatically creates the landscape and the portrait orientation for you. So that's kind of a nice feature. Twixel, very easy to use. Aquafatus, I laugh at this. Aquafatus has the Ken Burns effect. So you can zoom in and zoom out really slow. And the big thing about Press Run that they have going for it right now, and it's the only one that does this, Press Run in the background has HTML text. So when you publish your digital publication, you're actually able to go in there and select the text or use a visually impaired reader or go through and click the reader option and just look at the article or copy and paste things out of it, which is really interesting. It's something that none of the other ones are doing. Basically what you're looking at when you're looking at a digital publication is a picture. It's a JPEG, landscape and portrait. With this, there's actual HTML text running behind it. And right now it supports all three. So while it's more expensive than some of the other ones, it does work a little bit better. Okay, so let's take a look at some digital publishing examples. Got a few that I'm going to show you actually on my tablet. Ooh, I like this nice long cord. In case you haven't noticed, I hate standing behind a podium. I feel like a lecture. So I'm going to fire up my iPad. And let's take a look at, this is Light It. Now Light It is done using Aquafatus. And we have video, cool. So Aquafatus is Quark solution. Again, also available on InDesign, but this is Light It magazine. I can scroll through here and say that I want to go to that article. I can click on there and say I like this picture over here of the woman, the very first picture. If I double click on it, I can zoom in, I can look at it, I can zoom in, move it around, take a look at it. It has video built right in. So if I go to one of the articles with video here, it has live links. There we go. So I can look at video, I can click on this, and it actually has a video embedded. And this is just H.264. Now, that's the key to all of these. Whenever you do anything embedded, you kind of have to use what will work on the tablet. Flash video will not run on certain tablets. Won't run on any tablet pretty soon. H.264 is a standardized video mode that you can use on any tablet device. And if you have an Adobe product, CS4 or higher, little did you know that a little application got loaded up with the rest of your software called the Adobe Media Encoder. And that will allow you to translate MOVs, other video sources to H.264 so that you can translate anything that you want to this. Another one, this is Vienna Hotels International. Ooh, very nice. This is using Twixel. Here's the interesting thing about this. Here is my editorial page on landscape. It's in English. If I turn it on portrait, it is in German. So they've done an international version of this using Twixel. Okay, let's see here. I gotta go to my magazines here. Now we're gonna take a look at some shells. These are shells. So this is subscription based. This is wired from Condé Nast. And you can see here that I've got different wired guides that I can come through and take a look at this. If I go to my magazines, again, I love it when it's doing just such a great connection here. Well, anyways, what I would do with my wired magazine is I would click on it. I would buy the issue that I wanted. Oh, there we go. So if I click on view here, orientation seems to be off. This is wired. And here's the cool thing about this. This is their cover. All it is an auto-run H.264 movie, so when you start up their application, this is the first page you get. And then it switches over. Now that one, you know, it was cute, it was funny, and there's like 5 different covers. If I click this again, it's going to do something else, so I got to make sure I back out of it. This is Virgin. And, oh, by the way, if this is Virgin's magazine, if you want to get a great example of digital publishing, download this issue. This is Stephen Colbert. And on the cover, it does the same thing with the video coming in. It's got Stephen Colbert as Sir Richard Branson vacuuming with a woman with a life vest clinging to him. making fun of, I guess there's some published pictures of him with a woman on a jet ski, and she would not let go. So he's trying to clean up the cover and like bending over and stuff, and this woman's like clinging to him, and he's like struggling to get around. But this is what I want to show you. This is the cover for one of their magazines, and I thought this was really great. It's the dude. It's an article about his music career. So just a little introductory movie on the beach, really cool. He just stands there, walks off. In After Effects, they fade in the article, but then you'll see the movie stop, and what you didn't notice is it transitioned to the next page. So now it's the article. So it's just a great way to just do the seamless transition. It's totally sleight of hand. No voodoo magic, just a movie, little After Effects, transitions to the page. And then this one is using Press Run. So this is Good Food Magazine, and there's a specific reason why Good Food Magazine is using Text Run. It's the fact that they use HTML text. So if I go to my library and I just look at their preview here. So I'm going to scroll through. And I really like this. This looks good. Salmon and watercress quiche. If I click this, it'll flip over and give me a recipe card. I can not only select the text here, but say that I really like this. I can click up here and go, you know what? Add this item to my shopping list. And it will go through and add in all the items that I have here. And then I can just email the list back to me. Or I can just copy it over to my notes. Because it's text. It recognizes the text. It allows me to grab that and put that over into another application. So this is really, really cool. Just very, very expensive. So those are some examples of digital publishing that's out there right now, using the 4 big ones: Mag+, Aquafadis, Twixel, and Press Run. What we're going to do now, if I can hook this back up pretty quickly, there we go, is we're going to talk about how to create your own interactive publication. So this is where the how-to starts. As with everything, the how-to starts without actually touching the computer. You can use, today I'm going to be using Adobe InDesign CS 5.5 strictly because that's my most recent version on here, and I have a little bit of issue conflicting between the two of them right now. You do not need CS 5.5. It's a total myth. If you have CS 5, you're completely fine. CS 5.5, for those of you that don't know, was a targeted upgrade from Adobe, and it was specifically built around people that were designing apps. So you saw Flash get upgraded, you saw Illustrator didn't get upgraded, Dreamweaver did, InDesign got a little upgrade. Basically what happened with InDesign was they built the plugins that you can get for free in the app, okay? You'll have to download 2 free plugins, and I'll show you where to get those in a little bit. They are the Folio Builder and the Overlay Creator. The only catch with these right now is there are no automatic updates through the Adobe Updater, which is kind of stinks. You have to manually go back and use your spidey sense to know, ooh, there's an update. I have to check for that. So you have to manually go through and uninstall and reinstall these plugins. After you got them installed, install them and restart your computer. Don't just restart InDesign, do a fresh restart. The big thing to this, folder organization is key, just like anything else. So when we're talking about doing a publication for print, we've got our InDesign document. We may have resource files. We may have fonts included, just like if we package the document. Same thing is important here. We have to have a publication name folder. Inside of there, you would have a folio, and that's basically your issue. It's called your folio. Inside of there, you'll have 2 articles. Now, depending on how many articles you have, you may have folders for the articles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inside of there, you're going to end up with 2 documents, 1 vertical and 1 horizontal. 2 really important features. When you name your documents, you have to name it the document name, all one word, no punctuation, nothing funny like that, _V and _H for the vertical and the horizontal layouts. Because when you go to produce your digital publication, it's an automated format. It's going to look for those documents with the -V and the -H. Okay, so now that we know how that's set up, let's take a look at this. So here's my folder that I created my publication out of. It's got my articles, and you can see it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I go to my intro, there's my intro _H, intro _V. Now, looking at this in InDesign, this is my PDF portfolio. What I did with this is I went through, and this was from like a couple years ago, went through and just set up a PDF portfolio, just had some different pages, things like that, different information. Just examples, just static pages. Nothing fancy about it. So when this came out, I'm like, okay, I'm going to repurpose this for digital. So what I did was I switched to this. The nice thing is the aspect ratio for the horizontal didn't change, 1024 by 768, because when I project, that's what normal projectors use. So that didn't change, so I lucked out there. Now, if I'm going from 8.5 to 11, one big thing that I have to consider, especially for publications, is I am not going to be able to take my existing publication and just slap it on an iPad. The big problem with that is when you set up an article, so let me show you this again quick. This is an example of basically a print designer going straight to digital. And when I go to read, can you guys read that? You guys can. You got a nice big projector. I can't read this at all. So I have to zoom in. And this is now my user experience, is scrolling. Really distracting, really annoying after like the third page. If you're lucky if you get through the first one. So that doesn't work for print. You're going to have to repurpose this and you're going to have to redesign it so that you have it in readable spreads. Now for my portfolio, I didn't really have to worry about that too much. There's not a whole lot of text-heavy pages. There is one, and I kind of tried to work around that as much as I could. So I started out with my horizontal designs. And here's one of the great things. InDesign CS5 allows me multiple page sizes. So I can have in one document my horizontal and my vertical. So all I did was I went through, took my page tool, clicked on it, changed the orientation. So I went from portrait or landscape to portrait and just rearranged everything. Now, they don't have to match. And in fact, on my next page, which is my resume, I actually went through and set up some navigation for this. And this is the second really important thing. When you're designing for a digital publication, you need to give your users hints. I've got a little arrow down here at the bottom that shows you that you can scroll down to get to the next page. Also at the top, you will notice that I've got a rotation. So it says rotate for professional associations and more, meaning that if you go to my horizontal layout, it's completely different. It doesn't have to match, but it works in tandem with this. I couldn't fit my entire portfolio or my entire resume on one page and have it be legible on a tablet. So what I did was I split it up into 2 pages. So if you rotate it horizontally, you'll see all my associations, things like that, links to things that we'll talk about in a little bit. So that's my process. I went through and I designed my horizontal and my vertical first. Just like anything else, I just designed it. Didn't do anything yet. After I got it designed, then I went through and I started thinking about the interactivity, and this is really where the magic happens. I went to adobe.com and clicked on the Downloads tab. In the Downloads section, you will find Digital Publishing Suite for your prospective computers, PC or Mac. They both update at the same time. It's not one or the other. And you will need to download your version, so CS5 or 5.5, the Folio Producer Tools and the Folio Producer Panel. So you need both those. Yes, because it's updated. It's updated quite a bit in the last couple weeks. It seems like almost every other day for a while they were changing and updating. The last update on this was 10.3. And for this, it was 11.10. So, I've got an update to do, because I haven't updated this since like Wednesday. So I've got an update to run on this later. We'll see how this goes. Great. So those are the 2 downloads. And all you'll do is it just gives you a little DNG file that you open up. It'll automatically dump them where they need to go. It'll ask you to toss them first. It'll have a little README file that says, grab the old one, throw it out, drag this one back in. And then what that will give you are these 2 panels, the Folio Builder and the Overlay Creator. Now, what I did, and this is just my choice, is I went through and started to set up things ahead of time. So certain elements you can set up before you start creating your articles or your folios, your magazine. Some of these things you need to be in the actual folio to do. So some of the things that I set up were If I scroll down here, I've got a picture here that I did a print, and I wanted people to be able to see the print. So you can see it, but I wanted you to actually be able to interact with it. I wanted you to click on it. You can move around, zoom in, take a look at it. So basically what I did was I selected this item. I went to my overlay creator, and underneath of here, hidden is the enlarged version. Now, this is just a Photoshop file, and you can see that there's a lot more to it. So look, there's my zoom, there's my move. But I want people to do that in the tablet. So in my overlay creator, one of the things I can do is pan and zoom. So what I do is I select this, and I click on pan or zoom, and it automatically activates that. I can put this right back over top of it, and the interactivity remains. What happens is, again, you have to give them hints. So down at the bottom it says click to pan and zoom the image. When they click that, it actually just switches over to the image behind it. So I did that for a couple of them, where I went through and, again, another one, click to pan. There's a big picture here. We'll take a look at this a little bit later. And then we got into some of the detail things. So this is a retouched photo with the retouch on the left, the original on the right. And I wanted people to interact with this. So how could I do that? Well, one of the features in InDesign is I can create a slideshow. And slideshows are super easy. In fact, I'll set one up right here. So I've got a photo that I brought in, and I'm going to duplicate just so I have the same size. I'm going to go to place. Going to find my JPEG. So here's my retouched version. And I'm just going to put those one over top of the other. Now, I have to be really careful about this. I have to make sure that they're aligned. Of course, when you're doing this, I don't have my lovely align panel up above. So I'll need to align these. After I've done that, there's a panel under, if I go to Window, Workspace, and I go to Interactive, there is a panel over here called Object States. All I have to do is, with both those selected, I just have to click the Create Multi-State Object. There's my two states. So there's state 1, there's state 2. Of course, I placed the same picture. That's great. But you'd have two pictures, so you could go back and forth in the slideshow. It works on the iPad. Don't worry, I've already got it loaded. On the overlay creator, with this selected, I can go to Slideshow, and I can have that selected and tell it to create an overlay with the slideshow. So let's switch over, and I'm going to actually open up my Folio Builder. Now, the one requirement that you do have for these is you do have to have an Adobe ID. So if you don't have an Adobe ID already, just go to adobe.com, sign up for one. It's free. Just gives you access to extra features. See, that's awesome. Folio Builder, update. I'm going to test this Wi-Fi. Don't you love it? The night before you present, they give you an update. Oh, that's so good. It's going fast. So what I will then show you while we're waiting, because I've always got something in the hopper, is this is the other side of it. This is the web version of the Digital Publishing Suite. It's available on digitalpublishing.acrobat.com. And again, you would sign in, and this is the server. This is where your portfolio or your folio will house virtually. From here is where I can put it on my iPad to test. I can put it on my mobile device to test, basically through the cloud. On my tablet, I have an app, and I'm not going to switch over. I'll just show you up here. I have an app called the Adobe Viewer that I can download from the Apple Store. It's free. And this Adobe Viewer links up to this. So these are my publications that I currently have in here. To see my publications, I would go through. Is that done already? Oh, that's so awesome. I would just go through and click on Folio Producer, and this will show me all of my folios currently available. On here. Now, we got just a couple more minutes. So what I'm going to do is instead of going through here and installing all this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you one of my vertical and horizontal layouts. So we'll go to my Photoshop one. This is the horizontal layout. And when I click on this, I've actually got the overlay creator here. I can click on any of these and add my interactivity just by clicking on this and saying, okay, I want a slideshow or I want to have a panorama. I will load my images in for my panorama. The cool thing about this is it's pretty intuitive, but it's not completely flawless. So it's kind of hard to get started if you have no idea what you're doing. So I'm going to show you where you can go to get a really great instructional, because I can't be at everybody's desk as much as you'd like me to be. I can't go there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a free publication that you can download called DPS Tips. Digital Publishing Suite Tips is put out by an Adobe employee. And if I go back to the beginning here, Bob Bringhurst. It talks about the two aspects of digital publishing, the interactive overlays and the folio builder. So it talks from step 1 to step 10, how to go through and load this up, how to do the interactivity. It even talks about folder structure. So here's the final piece for mine. I'm going to go to my Adobe Viewer. I'm going to click View, and I'll show you some of the things. So these are all buttons, so I can click About Me, and it's going to take you to About Me. Love that shot. I can go through, here's my portfolio. So here's my resume, and then I turn it sideways. Here's my professional, and this actually links, so if I click on the Facebook icon, it links you to my fan page. If the net was working. LinkedIn takes you to my LinkedIn page. And again, these are all inside on my Twitter feed. I know this will pop up right away, of course. So there's my Twitter feed. So all of those are just built right in as buttons. Now, the other thing that I can do is, again, they don't have to match. So this was a poster that I did for Screen Gems, and it shows all the assets. If I turn it sideways, I get that. If I turn it there, you get the full screen. But let's take a look at that slideshow. So here's the pan and zoom. If I click, pan and zoom, going to turn this sideways, go to landscape. There's the before, there's the after. If I scroll down, let's go to the next one here. This one was pretty cool. This one I went through step by step to show you all the compositing. So lots of cool different things. Now for the movie aspect, movies are super easy. You place them just like you would, oh, sorry about that. You'd place them just like you would place a picture. So you just create a template, you drop it in, just like any other photo, and it automatically puts in video. So this was the only video I had. This is me with Guy Fieri on stage. But it's just a YouTube video I downloaded, and it's just, yeah, he said I had a Bill Cosby sweater for some reason. That is not a Bill Cosby sweater. But it's just, you know, regular design. So just go through and take a look at everything. Now, if you want to take a look at this, I'll be hanging out in the hallway. I'll have my iPad. You can take a look at everything. If you got questions, totally available for you guys to ask questions. Check me out. If you want to get more information, I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. I have business cards. But otherwise, thank you so much, you guys. Any quick questions before we go? Yes?
Well, most magazines are not 8.5 by 11.
Right.
They're 10 7/8 by something like that.
Yes.
So the proportion is the same as 8.5 by 11.
Right.
So,
Won't matter anyways, because you're going to be designing for 1024 by 768, which is 10.5 by about 7.5. So either way you look at it, you're going to have to redesign a layout no matter what, if it's 8.5 by 11, if it's, you know, tabloid, anything, it's going to have to change. So anything else? Okay, cool. Thank you very much, guys.